We're back here on Yaffee Live Talk Radio 102.3. I'm Tennessee's voice of reason, Chattanooga's conservative conscience. Glad you're joining the show today. And if you miss any of the show live, check out the podcast on the website, WGOW.com, or anywhere podcasts are available. At Thursday, at this time, every week, we speak with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. And you can read his stuff anytime, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today?
Yaffee, I missed you last week, sweetheart. I tried most of my vacation, but I
Whoa, wait a minute now. Wait a minute.
I missed you, too. I'm not calling you sweetheart. That's not happening. But
I like him, Brandon, but I don't know if I like him that much.
Nobody other than my wife, I don't think anyone likes me that much.
Well,
and sometimes it's iffy.
Who says conservatives aren't compassionate? Come on.
Exactly.
Very true.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about since you weren't on last week. Before we get to some of the news you have on your site, I did want to ask you about Marsha Blackburn. I know we've talked about her before, but she has officially announced she's the obvious front runner. What do you think?
Well, I mean, she is the obvious front runner. When you run for statewide office once, you put together a network of donors, people. When you've wielded influence in the U.S. Senate, you have a lot of individual grassroots donors around Tennessee, but you typically have a lot more corporate special interest money that you can lean on. And so, I mean, she's definitely the front runner for this. I have reached out to her, Lady Annie, went up to D.C. to see her. Marsha, when I traveled up there a few months ago and had a good meeting with her. And my hope is that we can get her on the show here before too long to talk about illegal immigration specifically and what her plans as governor would be. And, it is still early. It has seemed to me that every cycle when there's a governor's race, somebody who has zero political experience but a lot of business experience will come into the race. And so that is really the biggest thing that she has to look out for. If somebody comes in that can self-fund, that can raise a bunch of money, and who doesn't have a voting record to get beat up with, which is, the good thing about running for office when you have been elected is all the mechanisms and relationships and staff and all that stuff and war chest that you built. But the negative side is, typically people, as they rise, compromise a little bit and get out of alignment with their district. And so you can drive a wedge there. So we'll see. It is still early right now. Obviously we just got John Rose, who I did an interview with up in D.C., and Marsha in the race, but it's still too early to tell, Yaffee.
Okay, we'll see what happens. So I definitely want to talk about this story that you guys have at TennesseeConservativeNews.com, where there's recent data out there that shows that Tennessee is in the top 10 for ICE-related arrests. So in a way, that's good news, although it shows there were a lot of illegal immigrants here.
Well, it is. I mean, I don't know what I think the estimated cost of illegal aliens to taxpayers in Tennessee is somewhere around $2 billion. So we got a lot more than 3,000 folks.
Yeah.
These are the people that are how we report every single week. They're the folks driving drunk without insurance. They're the people that are raping, murdering, stealing, trafficking people. And so they're taking the worst of the worst off the street. But we still have a much larger issue. It's interesting to see Texas coming in at 23% of ICE-related arrests, and that makes sense. A, they're conservative. B, they're right on the border. Arizona, California, and Florida were close behind in the top 5, and a lot of that just has to do with the amount of people in there. And, of course, it encourages me that we continue to see more counties partner with ICE through the various 1087G programs to get folks out of here that are their worst offenders. But we've still got a long way to go. This is a systemic problem, and we've got to continue to work on it. So I'm interested to see what the second and third phases of this is. I hope that what we don't see is a lot of hat and no cattle on this, because people need to, if they're here illegally, they need to go back home. And we need to start setting up mechanisms and incentives so that people can do that, and even penalties if you get caught here for anything. And if you've not gone through a process to self-deport, well, then you just self-deported yourself. Traffic ticket, you name it. because this is a monumental problem. And one thing that I do want to talk to Marsha Blackburn about is, if she still support, I don't know if she's ever supported it, but it seems to go on. I'm not saying it that way, but if she would support or work to alleviate the continued education of illegal immigrants at our expense in the state, which is the largest line item. It's like $700 to $800 million a year, and we could do a lot with that in education, especially in Hamilton County. And we could get a lot of our classrooms in struggling schools to be in a smaller class size, which would help Native Tennessee kids.
Yeah, it's something we've talked about a lot. Obviously, it's good to have deportations. Obviously, it's good for ICE to be working, but we also need to have mechanisms, like you said, to get rid of the incentive for them to stay here in the first place, to want to come here in the first place. Are you optimistic about that, maybe in the next session?
I'm more optimistic than typically, mainly because it is an election year, and usually the session in the state legislature where people are closer to getting elected. Like, they want to put feathers in their cap. They want to reassure their constituents that they are indeed conservative and have something relevant to talk about on the campaign trail. And so I'm hopeful that some of the folks in leadership will carry some of the bills they carried previously. And I'm also hopeful that some of the conservatives will carry the bills that they've always carried, that have always been killed in Tennessee by Republicans, and that because it's an election year and because the climate is different, that we can get a lot more yes votes.
Brendan Lewis is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. He joins me every Thursday. So you were talking about maybe some other things the state can do when it comes to illegal immigration. Well, at least the governor is calling up the National Guard to assist in ICE deportations. It's just kind of on the margins. They're doing more logistical work, but it's something, right?
Well, I mean, you assume it's the federal government, right? So there's going to be, like, I'm sure for every deportation, there is a small novel of paperwork to be filled out, because God knows that's necessary, right? Like, it's really necessary. And so I can remember when I worked for Congressman Desjardins Yaffee, we moved offices during redistricting because we had to. And I set the campaign office up in 2 days. 2 days. I got everything set up, connected. It was like 3 months later, and they lost our furniture somewhere between Jasper, Tennessee, and Cleveland, which is about an hour away from each other. And for 3 months, they couldn't find it. And I called every office, and nobody could connect anything. We were working illegally off our personal computers, or I was anyway, and just to help people, manage case stuff. And so I could assume that they're filling out a lot of paperwork, but I would hope that if we have National Guard resources filling out paperwork, that means that we've got more folks that can actually go do enforcement in the community, and hopefully that's the way it works out.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, but you're right. Knowing how the government works, that we probably need them to do a lot of that.
Yes.
To do a lot of that paperwork. So, there you go. By the way, did you see that we might have net negative migration? We might have reached that at least pretty soon into the country. It's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, you would think, because the border's pretty much sealed up. It's as tight as it's ever been in my adult lifetime under any Republican president. And so you would assume that if it's sealed up real tight, and what is that? Let's do the math real quick here. I'm going to take 3,000. I threw the paper away already, but I'm going to divide it by 0.025, and we're going to come up with 120,000 deportations. Well, if you've got 120,000 deportations, even of the worst elements, and if the border's sealed up pretty tightly, there's probably $100,000 net negative there, I would assume. So, yeah, that makes complete sense.
Okay, that's good. So, yeah, we'll have to see if that continues. Now, moving on outside of immigration, another big issue that's happened here in Tennessee is you have these universities that say they're going to, they're going to end up getting rid of DEI, but they don't really. They just call it something else. So that's been a big issue. And you guys have a story as well where Tennessee whistleblower outs a so-called Christian healthcare company for pushing social justice, DEI, and aiding illegals. So we had it on the university level. Now we have a healthcare company that says they're a Christian healthcare company helping illegal immigrants.
Well, and something that's interesting about this, Yaffee, I didn't know. I just typed in right before we got on the show, Common Spirit Health, and I'm like, I've never heard of this. Well, I type in Common Spirit Health, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it's actually CHI Memorial. It's Memorial Hospital right here in town. And so there, we got two big hospital systems, Erlanger. I mean, we got more than that, but the two biggest ones are Erlanger and Memorial. And they got multiple. At least if you pull it up on the inner tube, that's what it says. I haven't dug into this too far, but basically, they're looking at a humanist future, and they continue to push discriminatory DEI practices, advancing social justice. And I think it was Chief Operating Officer Tellico Richardson in February of 2025 issued a guidance with specific instructions on how to engage with ICE agents and reminders that employees are prohibited of releasing patient names or immigration status. And the contents of the letter is basically like, hey, we need to shield these folks that have broken the law and have come in to our country illegally. And not only that, like Memorial gets a lot of subsidies from the state and the federal government, I assume, to provide health care for these folks that use our hospitals and emergency rooms as primary care centers, where they know that they're never going to pay a dime. It's just me and you paying for it. And so these healthcare conglomerates, not very concerned about the average Tennessean, all they see are dollar signs. It's just a head and a bed, baby. And it's what makes the world go round. And so it is sad to have an organization in our community that seems more concerned with its bottom line than the financial responsibilities of a community member. But it appears that that's what we got going on.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the case here. Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. I understand you have some big announcements you wanted to get to as well.
Yes, there are two things quickly, guys. If you ever wanted to come to a Tennessee Conservative event, we've got one happening this Monday, coming Monday, and it'll be from 5 to 8. It is at the Tellico Village Yacht Club, which is about an hour north of Chattanooga. It's a great club of conservatives. They got about 1,000 members. We got folks coming in from all over the state. We've got our reporters, our media coordinator. Almost everybody's going to be there, and it's a benefit for us. And it's a whopping, hold on, it's $47. Right, 47 whole dollars. So if you can drive up there, have a nice spaghetti dinner, hear about conservative media and the issues that are facing us this Monday, 5 to 8, just go to Tennessee Conservative News. Those of you who subscribe, those of you who listen, and there's a little events button on your desktop. You'll see events, and if you're on your mobile, it's just that little caret, and you hit events, and you can scroll down, and you'll see this event. And also, on the 20th of August, holding a virtual event, Conservative Candidates Academy, where I'm going to be training conservative candidates and perhaps taking a few on in a coaching role again, like I used to do a long time ago. And it's $47 as well. So if you're thinking about running for office, if you're going to throw your hat in the ring, and you want somebody that's ran and won 14 campaigns and legislative efforts, federal, state, and local, and you've got conservative values, and you're a candidate that has the time and the money to put into the process, I'd love to see you get across the finish line.
And you've worked for campaigns, so you have a pretty good track record from what I understand.
Yeah, I was in it, and I thought I would probably make my living doing it. And then after, I started a painting business, so random, and built it up and sold it, and I've been coaching painters. And it wasn't until COVID in 2020, when I was illegally working in my office, when then Mayor John Coppinger, never take health advice from someone that looks like a walrus. That's always been my advice.
Okay, good to know.
Shut down the churches, shut down the gyms. That's real healthy. And of course, everything we were told, masks, the vaccine, social distancing was BS. And so I got back in the fray. But it wasn't until recently that I started coaching candidates and working on campaigns again, although I was just doing it for free. But now I'm going to do it for hire, because I have found that when people pay, they pay attention.
Oh, that's a really good point. So I might have to see if I can. No, I'm not running for office, so not that part. But the other part at the Yacht Club for Tennessee Conservative, I'll have to see if I can make it out there on Monday, because that sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, you should. It would be it's a neat group. It's a great venue. That Tellico Village is like beautiful. It's on this pristine lake. You never even know the place was there driving down the interstate, and you get in there, and there's just beautiful homes. Got a great view of the lake, and some of the most dedicated, sweet, involved, engaged. Probably the largest conservative club, I would think, in the state of Tennessee. Is just right up the road. It's, a lot of the folks that are there are retired, so they got time on their hands and they're passionate. And a lot of them have moved in from out of state, and they know what happens when we just sit around and think, "Oh, I'm in a red state." Well, people in California thought that in the '80s. "Oh, I'm in a red state," and it just slowly creeps away. And so the only way we can keep it is to make sure that we are engaging in local politics, and B, keeping up with what's going on so we can hold our elected officials accountable, and occasionally running for office if you feel called to do it.
Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can find these stories all about those events at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, buddy.